Hey everyone, Ian and Poncho from Summit Bicycles here with an awesome new product review on Trek's new Fuel EX bike. We're lucky enough to actually have Jose Gonzales here, the general manager for Trek Suspension Lab in Southern California, and we are going to do an in-depth review of the new Fuel EX. There's a lot of changes. How you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
Very good, awesome. So we'll get right to it. Poncho, you rode the Fuel EX, the new one, model year 2020, and the 99, if I believe, right?
Yeah, it's a 99 X01 mechanical build. It's pretty awesome. I'm on an X01 bike now, so that was a no adjustment period for me. So getting on it was, really easy. And man, the new Fuel is way different than the last Fuel I was on.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Let's start with just your first overall impressions of the bike.
Overall, I thought it rode great. It's been a while since I've spent a lot of time on a Fuel, but this one is fantastic. I mean, the last one I rode was probably a couple of years ago, at least the last one I rode very thoroughly. This one is far different than the last Fuel that I was on. It's quiet, it's long, it's slack, it's a really rowdy trail bike. It's real fun to be on.
That's awesome. How did it climb?
I mean, Treks have never not climbed well, and this one is no exception. The Fuel just billy goats up the hill. Every time you pedal, it just keeps going, and yeah, there's no reason you can't get up any climb on this bike.
Yeah. We use Poncho as our testing dummy for climbing because he is by far the most sensitive to how well or not well a bike climbs.
That's a really nice way of saying I'm terrible at climbing.
Yes, it
yeah,
is.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I worked on that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. How did it? We have a lot of awesome video of you in some pretty sweet corners. How did it corner?
Yeah, the bike is great. It's super stiff. It responds well in corners. I mean, you throw your weight right into it, and it snaps right out of every single corner. Really, really impressive. The bottom bracket and chainstay area seem to do really well with all the forces you want to throw at it. So,
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Any other features that you want to touch on real quickly?
Yeah, it was noticeably quiet. I think it's the quietest bike I've ridden probably in the last handful of years, if not the quietest bike I've been on. Bikes tend to make noise. The box sections are real big, and they're big hollow sections with rocks banging against it and the chain banging against it, and you don't hear anything. I mean, it's like the bike has foam in it, but it doesn't. I don't know what magic that Jose threw at it, but it's dead quiet. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. How did it descend? It's quite different geometry this year. So.
Yeah, they nailed it with the geometry. The big knock on last year's model was maybe it wasn't as long as some of the bikes that people wanted, and maybe it wasn't as slack, but this one hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's a 470 mil reach in a large, which I think is what people are looking for. It's certainly what I really like to see in a large trail bike. So the bike is long enough, it's slack enough, the bottom bracket felt lower, so the corners are really nice. And it descends, again, like a really rowdy trail bike. The 140 travel in the front with the 130 in the rear, it just wants to go.
Yeah, that's thanks for that breakdown, Poncho. I'll let Jose and you kind of talk out the number of improvements that Trek made on this bike this year.
So let's dive into it. I mean, let's start with the frame. What were the biggest improvements you guys sought to make over the last Fuel?
Well, as you can see, the frame is completely brand new. One of the significant changes is the increase in cross-section on numerous tubes, and that enhanced the stiffness of the bike. It also gave us the proper frame tuning as well, so you can make a bike too stiff, which is something that's not really desirable.
Then it becomes uncomfortable to ride.
It becomes uncomfortable. Yeah, it's overreactive too. One of the things that you want out of the chassis is for it to be able to settle when you drop it into a turn and
Sure.
so on, not just want to ride over the turn.
Right.
And it takes a tuned stiffness to do that.
Yeah, it'll just kick you around if it's too stiff, right?
Right.
Can't go in a straight line if it's, wanting to kick every rock to the left and right.
Exactly. And the other thing to keep in mind is that, suspension can only respond to so many frequencies. And then, beyond suspension, your frame tuning, your tire stiffness, all those things
Sure.
come into play. So one of the reasons why the bike was so calm for you and so quiet is because all of those aspects are working in unison to calm the bike down.
Yeah, the bike was really, really impressive. I mean, I can't say enough good things about it, but it's good to know that all that went into the frame. I mean, it shows that a lot of hard work and engineering went into it because it rides unlike anything else. So you guys did something pretty cool this year. There's seems to be a storage section in that down tube. Can you go into detail about that a little bit?
Yeah. Actually, it's a feature that we've been exploring for a few years, and it took us a little while to really get it to the point where we felt good about it. From a frame stiffness standpoint, from a weight parameter standpoint, and so on. We're calling it the trunk box, and essentially you just kind of flip the lever and the whole thing comes out.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to use, pretty intuitive, and it's also very convenient.
Yeah.
To get to stuff. There's basically a tool roll that'll go inside, so you're not just fishing for stuff. You just pull out a tool roll, and in that tool roll you'll have your tube, you have your air, whatever, and just makes it a lot easier to get to stuff.
Yeah, our film guy actually got a flat yesterday, and your purse, let's say, that was stored in there, came in handy real fast. So it saved the day for sure.
One of the interesting things too on the fuel that I noticed is the chain is so close to that chainstay. Can you go into detail about that as well?
So essentially, by placing the chain closer to the chainstay, you eliminate the chain's ability to develop that momentum and clank around.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's almost like you guys use the chainstay as like a chain guide.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it's what it does. It'll, even with the 32th ring, it still has the right clearance, so it doesn't create drag, but it does really force the chain to kind of stay on a trajectory.
Yeah.
What chainring sizes is the bike optimized for?
That is 32.
Awesome.
32 is what it's optimized for. 30 is really close to optimal as well, so you can go to a 30 and still be good.
Yeah.
It'll accommodate a 34, up to a 34.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We saw your bike had a 30 on it yesterday, right?
Yeah, I have a little bit higher cadence, so I like the smaller front ring.
Yeah.
That ABP pivot looks a little bit different this year. Is there anything new with that?
Yeah, it's been reconfigured slightly, to be more optimized and slightly more compact. The other thing is that it has a more robust derailleur hanger design into it. So again, it's just like you said, it's the whole purpose of the bike is to be an aggressive, burly trail bike.
Yeah.
And all those little features kind of complement that.
All the small things add up to the...
That's exactly.
Absolutely.
It's, the other element is that the bike was designed to accommodate 150 and 170 droppers.
Sweet.
And that took a little bit of reconfiguring of the seat tube. So the seat tube not only grew in diameter for stiffness at the BEB, but it also got straightened a little bit, so that you have enough insertion for those longer dropper posts.
Yeah, we noticed that the seat tube is also a little bit steeper this year. Can you go into detail about that as well?
Yeah, again, it's going in that direction of the modern trail bike with slacker head angles, longer front centers, and part of that is going to a 75-degree seat tube angle.
Yeah, the bike felt excellent climbing for sure.
Yeah, and that's what it does. Is it makes the bike a more neutral climber. It still maintains good grip for technical climbing, but at the same time it puts you over the crank a little more, so it's a little more efficient.
Get that nice pedal stroke going.
Yeah, the other thing that does is it complements the suspension function.
How so?
Because when you move the rider forward, you tend to calm the pedaling function in relation to the shock.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, that shock looks pretty fancy. There's a couple bits on there that you don't really see on other shocks. What's going on there?
Yeah, so that's a brand new shock. It's completely redesigned, and it's all new components. It's got an all new air spring, an all new damper. One of the big changes is we went away from the internal compensator of the previous through shaft to the external compensator that you see on this one, and that's what this feature is up here. That gave us a shock with more capability, and at the same time it allowed us to reduce the diameter of the shaft. We went from a 12 millimeter shaft to a 9 millimeter shaft. The benefits of that are reduced friction and stick slip, because you have less seal area dragging on the shaft, but at the same time it increased the oil volume within the shock slightly. So it essentially puts the shock on a same platform as a DPX2 instead of the float, which the previous shock was more of a float, unibody shock, where now, we're talking more of a, an aggressive trail bike shock.
Yeah, generally I like to see those larger volume air shocks on my trail bikes, but I had no issues with that shock overheating at all on the ride yesterday, so pretty impressive piece.
Yeah, you won't. The thing that gets overlooked with reservoir shocks is the majority of that reservoir is a gas charge.
Yeah.
There's no oil in there per se, and that's to accommodate a large amount of displacement that typically is found on reservoir shocks. And since we don't have to deal with displacement, our reservoirs are a lot smaller.
Yeah.
But from a capability and thermal control standpoint and stuff, there's no difference.
So there's no need for a big old chamber and
exactly, because we're not displacing that fluid.
Yeah. Very cool.
The other thing you'll notice on the shock is that we have numerical rebound knobs.
Oh, cool.
So you now no longer have to count clicks. You can just kind of visually
You're at 3.
go to that click or that position. And it's a really nice feature.
That's amazing.
It's crazy how
it's the small things, man, that really make you happy.
Such a difference,
We could do that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I also noticed the full floater's gone. Right. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So as shock technology has evolved, full floater really had diminished in value, and there were more benefits for us from being able to manipulate that cross section of the frame, which full floater kind of limited in the past.
Yeah.
So as the shocks improved, we didn't have to overcome some of the deficiencies that were in the shocks at the time with the leverage rate. Is essentially what full floater allowed us to do.
And there's 2 down tube pads, right? The top one is actually a backup for the knock block feature in the headset, correct?
Correct.
And then that one's been there forever on multiple versions of bikes, just to help protect the frame from kick up and whatnot.
Correct. Yeah, awesome. From kick up, or if you happen to run into a rock on a technical trail section. The one difference with that pad is it screws on now. It doesn't stick on anymore. So it's much easier to replace it if you need to after some trail damage or whatever. Yeah. Just another little feature there.
Yeah.
So I think I wrote a 140 mil fork on there. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, they come with 140 forks.
And you can put a 150 on there, maybe?
That's right. The bike, the frame is tested and designed to accommodate a 150.
Sweet. And what will we get with a 150 fork on that bike as opposed to the shorter 140?
The 150 fork will give you about half a degree less head angle.
Awesome.
So it puts it right about a 65.5, and then it'll raise the BB about a 3 millimeter.
Cool. Give you a little extra clearance in case you want to ride those really rowdy trails with rocks and whatnot. Awesome.
So beyond going to the high, you can also put a 150 fork in there, and it'll give you a little bit slacker head angle, a little bit taller front end, and obviously longer travel, but at the same time it bumps up your BB for a little clearance on that.
Sounds like the bike gets a little bit more fun with a 150 fork on there.
Yeah, it does. I mean, at that point it really becomes a rowdy trail bike.
Sure, and to go to 150 fork, I guess all you need for that thing is air spring, right?
That's correct.
Sweet. We can do that for you guys at the shop, so just ask.
Before we move on to the different models and line of the whole EX range, we want to touch on a couple of different of the components, the tires, and we noticed the dropper, actually, huge improvement on that one. I'll let you guys go into the details, but what tires did you ride, Pancho?
I rode the XR4 team issue in a 2.6, so it looks like the clearance on the bike went up, and the 170 mil dropper was a nice addition to have also. Yeah. I didn't need to have any seat posts sticking out of the frame because my legs aren't super long, so the 170 actually fit me just perfect, slammed all the way down. And that lever action was really nice as well. So on the older line, I noticed that there was a little bit of stiction, but on this one it felt butter smooth.
Yeah.
So do all the fuels ship with the same wheel size?
No, the extra smalls are smart wheel size, so they go to 27.5.
But just the extra small. The small you get the 29?
Correct.
Awesome.
All right, so you rode the Fuel EX99 X01 cabled version, obviously. What are the different offerings for the full lineup?
Yeah, so one of the main differences is when you go from the 98, 99, you go to 34 millimeter forks. Only the 98 and 99 get 36.
Mm-hmm.
There's still all 140s.
Got it.
But you do go to that smaller platform.
Got it.
And then from a drivetrain standpoint, they're all one buys.
Mm-hmm. One by only, right?
One by only.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is what allowed you to do a lot of.
And it allowed us to
Yep.
improve the chainstay
Yep.
and frame stiffness and so on. There's a mix of both Shimano and SRAM
Mm-hmm.
as far as drivetrains. So
Yep.
depending on what you prefer, you can have either option.
Yeah. The 99 was so X01 cable, X01 access, and then XTR, correct? For the 99
Right,
version?
for the 99, there's three options.
Yep.
There's analog and wireless
Yep.
for SRAM, and
Yep.
then the XDR for Shimano.
Got
But
it.
for 9A, it looks like there's GX and Shimano XT as well.
Got it.
Right,
Yep. And the 99 is the only one with Kashima, correct?
correct.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
Kashima's limited to the 99.
Got it. And there's an A and B color for all the models, right?
That's
Down
exactly
through the
it.
aluminum? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So, and we call this the B color, is this right?
Right, a darker tone's usually the A color, the B color is usually a brighter tone.
Got it.
I like the paint job on the new,
Yeah, that blue
the new
fade
fuel.
is,
It's
yeah,
sharp.
it's pretty.
Yeah, it's kind of the Miami green evolved.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know? And
Definitely.
I'm a huge fan of it for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
you're in San Jose Sharks territory here, so we're big fans of that colorway.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I was looking at the specs on the 97, 98, and 99, and it looks like they're all full carbon frames. Is that correct?
That's correct. Even the 97 gets a full carbon frame.
That's pretty sweet, because that wasn't the case before.
Right. That was one of the adjustments that was made in past 97s for cost, and we were able to address that going forward.
Sounds like it's a really good value then.
That's an awesome value.
Pancho, I noticed you had some good comments about the brakes, the new XC brakes on the bike you rode.
Yeah, I really like them. I mean, they were strong and stopped me on a dime every single time, so I was really excited to have those new XT4 pistons on there.
Yeah,
Yeah, all the carbon frames come with Shimano brakes,
yeah, that's awesome.
carbon bikes.
Yeah. All right, that about does it. I think we've covered most, if not all, the details on this awesome new fuel. I want to give a special thanks to Jose for coming out, and you guys crushed it on this bike. So give congrats to your team. We really appreciate it. So
Thanks so much for the opportunity for bringing this out here, letting us ride it, and letting me ride it. It was a great experience.
Yeah.
Thanks a bunch.
Yeah, thanks for having us
Yeah.
and being able to help you out with this.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, for sure. So stop by the store. We have demo bikes in stock ready for you to test this awesome bike. Give us a call, shoot us an email, come by, and we'll take care of you. See you guys.